after a long-winded experience of Sarah trying to find headphones, we are back with some true crime drama. I don't really know how to enter. I hate doing intros.
Beautiful. I think it's excellent. I think it's important they know I got the best headphones.
She's got the
Razor
best.
Kitten headphones.
They are. She looks fabulous. They match your pink microphone because she's upgraded, so we don't have fart microphone anymore.
No more fart microphone.
Oh my goodness. Anyways, my parents have been out of town for a month now, and I am so looking forward to having them back. I am a little sleep deprived, so just a heads up going into this. Might be a little giggly in some areas. It's not intentional. I just haven't slept.
Oops. That's okay. Well, what are you doing? Are you just pet sitting or?
I am pet sitting while they are.
Homesteading.
I am homesteading. I am pet sitting. I am traveling back and forth and doing the walk of shame in the mornings that their neighbors get to see because I'm still in PJs and my hair is just a mess when I come outside.
They're like, what's going on next door?
I kind of wonder what they think because I'm like, I leave really late in the afternoon to come back over to my place and I leave really early in the morning here to go back over there. And I'm like, I wonder what some weird neighbor that's just nosy and is like watching is like, oh my God, they're having an affair. I'm like, no, it's just me going between two houses.
It's just you walking around. It's funny. They're just like sitting there in like their window with like a cup of coffee. He's like, Martha, get over here. She's back.
It's 5 a.m. Todd. I want to sleep.
I get up just for this.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, so that's been going on for like a month. They come back this upcoming week, so I'm like, oh, thank fucking God.
That's good.
But yeah, buildings are going up on the new property and everything's kind of looking good, so that's good news on our half. Outside of that, I don't have really anything else to talk about. Just the fact that I look like I'm doing the walk of shame every morning at like 10 a.m. when I leave their house. And then I also like stop and get coffee sometimes. I'm pretty sure those gals at the coffee house are like, I wonder what she's doing with her life. I'm like,
I wonder. She's like half asleep coming in here.
She doing okay? She's had like quad shots in every single one of her drinks. I hope that she's all right.
Your heart, like in the meantime, is just like.
My poor anemic heart is like, what the fuck we doing, bitch?
It's like slowly beating because it's like large and about to explode.
Oh, shit. Anyways, I will transition us out of banter and into our episode for today. And
beautiful.
With all good intent, and I was planning on recording this by myself up until you sent me the photo of your new microphone. And I went,
oh, yeah.
I can wait an extra day.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, though, because you have another national parks case.
Oh, no. Okay.
Okay.
I'm never going to go hiking again.
It's
I'm
even
just
better.
Stay inside now.
It's even better because this
Be an indoor person.
This one's in Colorado.
No. God.
All right. So while we understand that some individuals listen for the entertainment aspect of true crime, it's important to remember that these are real people with families and friends who may still be suffering from their loss. These stories are not meant to open old wounds, cause further emotional damage to those involved. We remind you, please be respectful and do not dox or contact those involved with cases. The cases discussed in this podcast may be disturbing to some listeners, and listener discretion is advised. As far as trigger warnings go today, we do have one for suicide, and we also have one for a animal-related casualty, which made me very sad. Just a heads up. I will give a heads up before we actually get to the animal stuff, so you guys have a fair warning that it's coming. We're going to start in Silver Plume, Colorado. It's a stationary town located in Clear Creek County. The population of Silver Plume is 204, according to the 2021 census. Dun, dun, dun. Census. It is located just 47 miles west of Denver, off of I-70, situated along Clear Creek in the Front Range of the Rocky Mountains. It was founded in 1864, and early settlers hoped that they would strike gold in the area. However, they only found glumps of grayish ore, which were deemed worthless at the time, but this was actually silver ore. When the economic depression known as the Panic of 1893 hit the United States government switched from a silver and gold standard currency to an all-gold standard. This sent the popularity of silver plummeting and drove Silver Plume into the ruin. However, Silver Plume has managed to survive through the years with the use of tourist dollars, and in reference to today, it is a semi-ghost town or a living ghost town. Now, according to my mom, when discussing this with her, because I call my mom and I tell my mom fucking everything, she stated that there's apparently a ski resort there, which helps tourists, like the tourist season during the winter, whereas like you have people that go up and go camping during the summer. So it's kind of around about, generally there will be some type of visitor in the area. Our story today starts in 1987 when the town had only around 200 residents, which, pause real quick, because if you go looking for further information, this can vary between like 130, 140, 200, so on and so forth. It really just depends on what source you go with, but because this is designated as a living ghost town, populations will vary depending on the year. So Tom Young was a former high school art teacher and a retired United States Army Special Forces veteran, and called the south side of Pendleton Mountain his home. Tom lived along with his beloved black Labrador dog, Gus, and ran a travel bookstore on Silver Plume's main street called Charing Cross Station, and was eccentric by all accounts of residents of the small town. Some residents recall Tom playing catch with his dog using a baby doll head as the ball, to which there are so many nopes in that sentence right there for me, and I would scream if I saw a doll head come flying through the air. But that's besides the point.
Just launching baby doll heads. Oh my god.
I mean, I would completely just like have a heart attack on sight. It would be dead. I would be done. Tom, for the most part, kept to himself and avoided social contact with others. He was more than happy spending his time with Gus, his books, and walking the Rockies. Ultimately, residents of Silver Plume gave him his space and his privacy. On the Monday of September 7th of 1987, Tom had last been seen walking off into the Rocky Mountains with Gus in tow. He reportedly told some of his friends that he was traveling to Europe for a vacation with his family. 3 weeks passed, and Tom never returned, causing people to become suspicious of the small bookshop owner's absence. When the investigation started, Tom's family knew nothing of this planned excursion, and the police later checked boarding kennels for Gus, where he would usually be housed during these types of trips, but he wasn't there. Additionally, it's said that Tom and Gus were absolutely inseparable. There was also no record of a plane ticket being purchased for this apparent vacation that Tom was going on. With little evidence or knowledge of where Tom could possibly be, the case quickly went cold. Keith Reinhard lived in Algonquin, a suburb in Chicago, Illinois. He had been a sports writer for the Chicago Daily Herald for roughly 22 years, mainly covering high school sports. Keith was married to Carolyn Reinhard, as well as had 2 children, although there is another source out there that says he had 3, but the 2 that are predominantly referenced in regards to this case are Kai and Tiffany Reinhard. Keith was described as an outgoing person with a free spirit who had an interest in photography and panning for gold in the Colorado rivers. Keith hated big city life and was starting to suffer a midlife crisis. He was about to turn 50 years old and wanted to accomplish certain things while he was still young enough to do so. Keith was desperately looking for a way out of the overpopulated location, as it was beginning to stress him out and take a toll on his health, causing him to gain weight and lose focus in his current work life as he wandered and wondered what the future may hold for him. A friend of Keith's, one Ted Parker, who had lived across the street from him as a kid and had known Keith for about 40 years, lived in Silver Plume, Colorado, and owned the KP Cafe. Ted had told Keith about the different sort of life that he lived there, away from everybody and everything. Ted mentioned how it was a slower and quieter lifestyle, and this greatly appealed to Keith. With this information, Keith decided that he was going to take a 3-month leave of absence from the newspaper and try living out in Silver Plume on his own for a while without his wife, Carolyn. Keith explained to Carolyn that he wanted to take some time alone in Silver Plume to write a book in peace and quiet as he tried to rediscover himself along the way. And eventually, Carolyn would join him in Silver Plume permanently. In addition to this, Keith also wanted to do some hiking up in the mountains, and he hoped that he could get back into shape and overcome his fear of heights. Now, originally, Carolyn doesn't like this plan. In fact, it's rather upsetting to her, and understandably so. But she does eventually and reluctantly agree to Keith's plan, as she thought that he would be able to fulfill his dreams. So Keith relocated to Silver Plume in summer of 1988 and rented a simple store in the Knights of Pythias building from his friend Ted Parker on the town's main street, right next to Ted's own cafe. Ted described Keith as being both apprehensive and excited to start his new adventure in the small town, as well as his upcoming 50th birthday. Keith had set up a low-profile antique business which would sell antiques in matted photographs, and he began to write his book in his free time. Keith also rented a small apartment in the back of an abandoned Catholic church nearby. Within a short time of starting his book, Keith experienced what many writers do, writer's block, and was struggling to get the novel started. So, to get the mind running, Keith began taking regular hikes out into the rugged terrain of the Rocky Mountains. Not long after arriving in the living ghost town, someone mentioned to Keith that the previous tenant of the space that he was currently holding for his antique shop had disappeared without a trace just 9 months prior to his arrival. Keith considered this to be an ideal grounds for a novel, and he started researching Tom Young's disappearance, which quickly turned into an obsession over the subject. Eventually, Keith abandons the subject of his original novel and decides to draft a fictional novel on his computer with Tom's disappearance as the basis and detailed notes that he'd taken from locals in regards to it as his creative inspiration. This book featured a character called Guy Gypsum, and it was a composite of Tom and Keith, sharing both traits and features of the individuals. With multiple resources stating how it became hard for Keith at some points to tell the difference between himself and the character, with him trying to live the story that he was writing about. Which, I mean, it's a common practice in creative writing to put yourself into the environment that you're writing about, or even into that character's shoes within limit.
Did Tom go missing like the year prior to him moving in?
So he went missing 9 months prior to Keith moving to Silver Plume. He went missing in September of 1987.
Okay. I was looking at it on my phone, and I was like, did he like just disappeared right before this guy?
You're looking up spoilers?
Yeah.
Don't look up spoilers. I'm telling you a story.
Oh, fine.
Put your phone down.
Gosh.
Make me drive over there and beat you.
20 hours later.
20 hours later.
It's just like swinging a bat outside your car the whole time.
Just Harley Quinn style coming down the road. Good to front door. Hi, Mr. J.
I was like, oh shit. I'm gonna need new teeth.
We'll need new teeth.
I got good dental insurance, thank God.
So, unfortunately, Keith began to be beset with some problems. His shop wasn't doing much business, and he began to suffer writer's block again, with his inspiration beginning to wane. However, he did love living and being able to take walks in the nearby Rocky Mountains. On Sunday, July 31st of 1988, local hunters that were scouting the nearby Republican Mountain found a set of skeletal remains lying near or propped up against a tree out in the wilderness, about an hour's hike away from Silver Plume. Investigators were able to identify the body of Tom Young. And at the crime scene, there was a Smith & Wesson Model 36 and a backpack which were found nearby Tom's body. And here's your trigger warning. The dog Gus was also found lying next to Tom. Both Gus and Tom had died from a gunshot wound to the head.
God. Someone just took him in the dog out execution style. Like, what? That's not a plot twist I was expecting.
So we'll talk about this here in a second, but I actually found some of the crime scene photos, and I don't know how I feel about them. They've got a weird vibe to me.
That's scary.
So it was discovered during the investigation that Tom had purchased the gun just 4 days before his disappearance. And the local police believe that Tom went out into the wilderness and committed suicide. Additionally, the autopsy report later ruled this as the manner of death. Now, locals are skeptical over this ruling because Tom's not really a suicidal person. Like, this isn't something that he would do, according to a lot of people down in Silver Plume. And a lot of them said that he would never hurt Gus, many leading to believe and speculate that this was foul play, especially since there was apparently a tarp that was placed over the body.
I'm so sorry. It was suicide. He killed himself and he put the tarp on his body.
I know, that was my thought. I'm like, that's not how that works.
Okay, I'll believe you.
Additionally, in an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, it's discussed that the ballistics for the gun were never tested to match that of any type of comparative to the bullet that had killed Tom, which, just to pause real quick, because bullets are a pain in the ass to find. Like, I'm just going to say that. Sometimes they get all squished up. You don't get to find them. Sometimes they keep going because it's not like, oh, it hits something, it stops. No, not always how it happens. Sometimes that motherfucker goes on for a while and it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. So what I would presume that they would be testing as far as like comparative goes with ballistics there would be the actual cartridge casings, which you're going to be looking for firing pin impressions. This is a revolver, so head stamps, those types of things going on within that gun. I don't know why that wasn't tested. And I recall reading something of the gun may have been too corroded to shoot. However, there are cases nowadays of people pulling guns out of rivers and oceans and being able to get them back to a working state to actually test the ballistics on that gun. So I don't know what the excuse is here. And if the cartridge casings are missing, it's a revolver. Revolvers are not a ejector type of gun where the casing gets ejected when you fire. The casing will stay in there. So if the cartridge casings are missing, that says a lot to me right there. But in addition to that, and just going off of some of the photos that you can find in, I want to say it was the Strange Outdoors article, there's some weird placements going on with the body, the gun, the dog, everything going on there. And the fact that there's a tarp there too, it leads people to speculate with in good reason that this was a staged suicide crime scene. Now, on Wednesday, August 3rd of 1988, Keith attended the memorial service of Tom Young. And just before the service, he'd spoken to a friend back in Chicago over the phone about the chances of becoming the new Bulls writer at his old paper. With this, it seemed that Keith was considering returning to his old job for the Reporter Herald. A few days later, on Saturday, August 6th of 1988, Keith attended a party held at the KP building in Silver Plume that was being hosted by a Denver radio station, where he was seen talking to an unknown female as well as other partygoers, stating that he was convinced that Tom Young's death had not been a suicide. On Sunday, August 7th of 1988, Keith closed up his shop and began walking through the streets of Silver Plume, telling anyone he could that he was going to go hiking up near Pendleton Mountain, a 12,500-foot peak. Most did not take Keith seriously, as they knew that he had an extreme fear of heights and absolutely hated climbing alone. Additionally, he'd attempted to climb the mountain in the past, but was thwarted by its steep and rugged terrain, as well as getting vertigo during the hike and even possibly altitude sickness.
You can buy stuff to help with altitude sickness.
Oh, yeah.
Which is something I've had to do. Yeah.
This is 1988.
Although I wouldn't go alone. Like, yeah, I guess, yeah. They didn't have all that cool stuff at the gas station at Breckenridge.
And I mean, like, we've both done hikes in Colorado.
Or I guess this is Georgetown. Yeah.
We've both done hikes in Colorado. And I mean, even living there for 18 years of my life, I still get altitude sickness at times going through just being in, like, Loveland, for example, and coming back from such a low sea level area such as Arizona. It's really, really rough at times to just be in Colorado.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, what is it? I went up Quandary with one of my friends, and I brought an air container, like the little containers you can buy, which is hilarious because now you can buy flavored ones. Do you want some blueberry flavored air?
Oh, yes. Let me have blueberry flavored air while I fucking summit Mount Everest. Thank you so much.
They have a pomegranate one.
Okay, you know what? Yeah, I do want the pomegranate one.
I'll send you some pomegranate air.
Thank you.
At some point, maybe. I'll be like, here you go.
That'll help greatly with my asthma attacks. Just like...
God. Pomegranate flavor. Are you vaping? That's a big vape. And you're like, shut up.
Shut up, I can't breathe.
Now, Keith told multiple people and friends of his plan to summit Mount Pendleton, including his friend Ted Parker. Ted thought that Keith had originally been messing around with him when he came into the cafe and told him of his plans of climbing the mountain and returning back to the town around 10 p.m. That evening, saying that he was going to make it to the top of the mountain, and if I don't come back, call on the rescue. And Ted said that this felt like it was in jest, but Keith did leave, and it left him with a picture of him pointing to the mountain and saying goodbye. Keith was last seen leaving town at around 4:30 p.m. and heading towards the mountain, which was odd, as the round trip to the mountain was around 6 hours. Now, I say it's around 6 hours because, like we've discussed previously, sometimes you go out on these hikes, you get turned around, you get lost, something happens that you don't account for, and these things can add to the time of the hike.
You take a nap.
You take a nap under a tree.
I'm about 5 miles in, I'm going to sleep. I've thought about it. On some of the longer hikes, like anything more than 10 miles, you're just like looking at a spot and you're like, I could sleep there.
I could sleep there and we'd be fine.
No sane person does that, though. Only the very tired.
Only the very tired. And Sarah.
And me, if I'm daring enough.
Oh, God. So Keith had also left without any proper gear with him, and he was wearing tennis shoes and didn't have appropriate clothing for going up the mountain and facing the colder temperatures, wearing only a flannel and blue jeans. He carried absolutely no supplies for this trip. When Keith failed to return as planned in the late evening of August 7th, Ted reported him missing the next day, August 8th, and the Colorado Alpine Rescue Team launched the largest search and rescue mission on and near Pendleton Mountain, as well as Sherman Mountain and Republican Mountain. This led to one of the biggest searches in Colorado State's history, with the operation involving ground search and rescue teams, planes, helicopters, and search dogs. The head of the rescue team was Charlie Shermansky, and he stated at the time that the Reinhard investigation was like looking for a proverbial needle in a haystack. This haystack is 3,000 vertical feet of 60 degrees slope. This was about as difficult a search terrain as we cover. We were at a real disadvantage because Keith went into the mountains wearing no more than blue jeans and a flannel and tennis shoes. He had no backpack. He had no equipment. A typical search will leave lots of clues for us to trace. Keith didn't leave many clues. He didn't have many to leave behind. Police reports describe the mountain as very physical, with no path, loose rock, and very heavy vegetation. In addition to it being heavily pockmarked with everything from small holes to large mine shafts. Search dogs' paws were regularly scratched up due to the sharp rocks and would have to be bandaged. And on Friday, August 14th of 1988, after a week with hundreds of volunteers searching for Keith and well around 10,000 hours of search time without finding a single clue, the search was called off when a Sensa.
Okay.
I think it's Senna. Sensna.
It doesn't sound like a word anymore.
I went and got the pronunciation for this too. I'm pretty sure it's Sensna.
What's a Sensna?
Cessna. It's an aircraft. Hold on. We're gonna go get this real quick.
Okay.
Cessna.
A Cessna.
Okay. We're leaving
That still
that in
doesn't
'cause
sound real.
It doesn't sound real to me either. When I saw the first spelling of it, I was like, what the hell is this? So on Thursday, August 11th, the plane crashed into Pendleton Mountain, killing the pilot, Terry Leedens, and seriously injuring the other spotter, Don Drobany. The only clue that Keith had left behind was the book that he had begun to write, which was found by friends on his computer, and there was a paragraph in there concerning the main character, Guy Gypsum. It was wrote, Guy Gypsum changed into some hiking boots and donned a heavy flannel shirt. He understood it all now and his motive. Guy closed the door, then walked off towards the lush, shadowless Colorado forest above. Next to the computer itself was a newspaper article detailing Tom Young's discovery, and with this, people questioned if Keith had probably been setting the stage for his own disappearance. So there are many theories that have risen through the years that Keith has been missing. Suicide is one of those theories. It's the thought that Keith had gone off to the mountain with a suicide in mind like that of Tom Young. But he never mentioned any thoughts of suicidal ideation to his wife or friends. Carolyn also goes on to state that she does not believe that this was something that Keith would have done, stating his advice to her was always a positive mental attitude regardless of what was going on in life. She doesn't believe that Keith would have taken his own life. The next theory is misadventure, and that is that Keith had been trying to emulate this adventurous character in his novel and had gone off to get a feel for it with every intention of coming back to write more, however, may have gotten lost, injured, or something else happened in the mountains in that area to basically cause him not to come back. After all, he went into this area unprepared, and it's very dangerous. Additionally, sunset in Silver Plume, Colorado in August usually occurs around 8 p.m., and very few people are skilled enough to hike through the Rockies after dark. The elevation of the top of Pendleton Mountain is more than 12,000 feet, and the risk of exposure is very high even during the warmer months like July. In addition to the wild animals such as mountain lions, bears, and in some cases moose and other large animals that can pose a threat to human life. Carolyn also touches on the subject too, stating that Keith would have only gone up as far as he felt comfortable with his hike, and then he would have turned back. Additionally, she finds it extremely odd that he didn't take either of his cameras with him, as he had a habit of carrying a camera to photograph the scenic views while on hikes. The next theory is that Keith disappeared to start a new life. This emerged over time that perhaps the move to Silver Plume was not enough, and he wanted to escape to start a new life away from family and friends entirely. But this seems unlikely, as he was very close with his wife, daughter Tiffany, and son Kai. He may have also wanted to disappear for a short while to gauge how people would react for research for his book, and then was met with some unexpected accident. Now, I did hear from Locations Unknown, which is another really great podcast, and I suggest if you do like the United States National Park System cases to go give them a follow and check them out. They're both very funny guys, and they're very knowledgeable in the topics of wilderness exploration. So I heard from one of them while I was listening to their case before getting on the call with you that one of them theorized that possibly he had disappeared to start a new life. And over that time, he's writing about what people are doing in his book and doing those types of things. But when the plane crashes on August 11th, people are now dead because of him. So he automatically goes, you know what? Never mind. We're not disappearing for a short period of time. We're disappearing forever because, oh my God, how do you even go back after that?
Interesting.
So I found that interesting because honestly, like, if that happened, I could see somebody in 1988 just going, you know what? Never mind. I am disappearing. Bye. So
she's like, oh, people are dead. I got to dip.
I got to dip now.
Blood's on my hands now, guys. I got to just walk out of here.
So, yeah, I found that a very interesting theory that they talked about. I'm like, yeah, I could see that happening. Foul play is another big theory that people believe happened. Just like with Tom Young, Keith's mysterious disappearance leaves people suspicious and wondering if there were too many coincidences for the cases to be anything but sinister. After all, a man disappears without a trace, and then the following year, another man, both with the same storefront in Silver Plume, and one was writing a novel regarding the disappearance of the first man. People believe that both Tom Young and Keith Reinhard stumbled upon something they weren't meant to see, and subsequently were murdered for it. It's theorized that with Keith disappearing just 1 week after the discovery of Tom's remains, that he may have found evidence that Tom did in fact meet with foul play and was taken out for it. Author Mike Eccles wrote a book about the possibility of nuclear dumping in the Silver Plume area, stating that fall, my auto mechanic, Roger Holman, told me that on several occasions during the early morning hours, he had seen large trucks driving up and down the dead-end road behind his house. He said that the trucks were carrying nuclear waste from the Rocky Mountain Flats nuclear weapons plant 30 miles away. Waste which was being dumped into the shaft of the supposedly abandoned mine. I did keep my mouth shut, except for telling two acquaintances, one freelance writer, Sarah Lady, and Silver Plume bookstore owner and political activist, Tom Young. So theories arose that with such rumors of dumping, could it be possible that Tom wanted to take action and expose the government agency for their illicit activities? Film crew of Lost in the Wild explored some of the abandoned mine shafts that were believed to contain the illegally dumped waste, taking in Geiger counters to get a reading of the area. So the group did have to leave the mine as readings on those Geiger counters rose to dangerous levels. But the question that was raised is that, was this due to illegally nuclear dumping of waste or the natural occurring uranium in the area? Moreover, there's theories that possibly something even more sinister was at work in the Rocky Mountains. Lieutenant Stephen Gramillion was asked if there was a potential of an active serial killer in the Silver Plume area, to which he believed it was possible, stating in an interview, I mean, we found a couple of skulls up in Silver Plume in the last few years, end quote. However, when the detective was pressed regarding the release of information or details regarding this investigation, he was unable to provide anything due to it being an ongoing and active investigation. So, Lieutenant Stephen Gramillion does go on to state that these remains have been tested and none of them have been linked back to Keith. Keith's son, Kai Reinhard, and daughter, Tiffany Reinhard, believe that their father disappeared due to foul play. And in an interview, Kai stated, "I think my dad stumbled across something that he just knew too much." And when asked if he thinks that his father's disappearance will ever be solved, Kai responds with, "Yes, if somebody that knows something comes forward." Furthermore, Kai goes on to state in a 2018 interview with the Chicago Daily Herald that, "I think he got abducted by somebody or someone who didn't want him to talk." Today, there is a plaque that's dedicated to Keith Reinhard in the Rocky Mountains near Silver Plume that says on it, "Oh God, I want to wander. I want to wander till I die. With the mountains as my living room, my only roof is the sky." Words which were written by Keith himself before he vanished. Eric Walter, a filmmaker who is making a documentary titled Dark Side of the Mountain regarding the bizarre story of Keith's disappearance, has spent the last couple of years interviewing Keith's family and friends. Eric also joined Kai on a trip to the mountain in 2018 and notes how he was confused how searchers couldn't find Keith on the mountain originally until he actually visited Silver Plume. After spending time in the rough and steep terrain that reached nearly 13,000 feet at some areas, he's quoted in saying, "I could see how somebody would be swallowed up by the mountain." Eric does believe that Keith is somewhere on that mountain's foreboding landscape, and his remains have just yet to be found. Carolyn states, "It's very likely that there will never be a definitive answer to what happened to him or why, but I'm okay with that." Further noting how she was grateful for the time that they spent together. Relatives are certain that Keith is dead, and he has been legally declared as such, as the family cannot fathom the idea that Keith, a man committed to his children, would willingly choose to miss out on their lives. Keith's disappearance has been the subject of discussion for over 30 years in the small town of Silver Plume and throughout media. Community searches still occur to this day, and the use of psychic mediums has been employed to gain further insight and understanding to the case. Keith's friends do recall that he was fascinated by the idea of visiting West Virginia, and that the night of the party he was speaking to an unknown female, to which the name has since come forward of it being either a Greta or a Gretchen. She is believed to have lived in Denver at the time, and police would like to talk to her. Regardless of this, though, Keith remains a missing person to this day.
You know, I think it's obviously the hillbilly moonshiners that live up in that area. Just out in the woods. They're just like feral people.
Well, I mean, moonshine was illegal.
He probably just got too close.
For how long? Moonshine was illegal for how long?
I think it's still illegal. I mean, well, you can't sell it.
Technically, you can't sell it.
That's the big thing. You can't.
You're not supposed to make it either. But I feel like people really just turn a blind eye to that.
Care.
No.
Yeah, they'd slap you on your wrist and be like, "Stop that, please. We'll let you buy everything to steal alcohol."
I mean,
just don't. Just
when thinking on to other things, and I think the thing that really caught my attention in these last little couple theories was the idea of a serial killer being active, because there are serial killers that just hang out in national parks. Like, that's their thing. There's the Yosemite killer. For example, Israel Keys was very keen on national parks, and in fact, he does credit a couple of disappearances to being those of people that he targeted specifically in national park systems. There are people out there that just hang out and wait for unexpected travelers to come by on what's supposed to be a relaxing and adventurous day, and they take advantage of that.
I don't know how I feel about the theory of him just like taking off to. I mean, I feel like that one is full of so much hope. It's like, I'd like to think, but
it reminds me of the, like,
realistically.
Oh, well, he ran away and now he's sipping margaritas on the beach in Mexico. I'm like,
God, I wish.
That gives...
It's going to be me one day.
And then you're going to go
missing. I'm
by
not
butterflies.
dying in the desert. I'm not dying in the desert. I'm down in Mexico getting eaten alive by all the monarch butterflies.
But... yeah, no, I get that. There's a lot of hope behind that one, and I can understand where people want to cling to that, especially if, like, you were close to somebody like that, and it's just like, oh, well, They're fine. They wandered off. They decided that this wasn't the life for them, and now they're sipping margaritas and living their best life.
Or he joined the Hillbilly Moonshiners.
Or he joined the Hillbilly Moonshiners.
And he's sipping on moonshine.
I mean, I
Missing
would.
a couple of teeth.
I love moonshine.
I wouldn't turn it out. I wouldn't say no.
I wouldn't say no. So, no, there's those types of theories that's like, yeah, I could see where that could happen, but the likelihood that it did is so fucking low. I'm like,
I mean, honestly, like, if he did stumble upon, like, a huge, giant, nefarical plot to, like, dump waste in the caves up in the Rocky Mountains, like, and getting killed for it, that's wild. That makes for, like, a really cool story. Mm-hmm. But this might sound kind of sad, but I think, more often than not, people just slip.
Yeah, and I mean, that could have been something that happened.
My God. If he made it to the top, those rock scrambles on the top of those mountains, like, as soon as you get above the tree line, which I think is, what, like, 11,000 feet? 10,000 feet?
I think it's like 9,000, 10,000 feet, something like that.
Yeah. As soon as you get up there, it's literally just, like, loose rock, like, super big, chunky rocks. You could fall down, break your leg. Like, if he didn't have a hiking pole...
And he's not wearing hiking boots
he's older than 25.
He's not wearing hiking boots either, so there's no real, sturdy ankle support with tennis shoes. Like, the biggest thing that you don't want to do when you go out hiking is, A, wear fucking blue jeans, and B, wear tennis shoes. Because the chafe is fucking unimaginable in jeans.
This poor man is at the top of this mountain, probably, if he made it that far. If he was able to hike for about 4 hours, which I think the average person can, he probably made it pretty far up the mountain. I think it takes like 3 hours, to go a few miles up in elevation. Mm-hmm. It's not too hard. But he's probably, slipping. His feet are bruised from just wearing tennis shoes. His ankles are twisted. He's probably fallen down on his arm. And there's no defining nail. Which means you want to keep going higher. You want to get above those trees so you can look down and be like, okay, where do I live?
Where do I live?
Or he wants to climb a tree and be like, okay, where do I live? Like, it's...
Well, even when we discuss, like, that type of misadventure happening, he didn't go up with supplies. He didn't go up with water. He doesn't have hiking poles. He doesn't have rope. He doesn't have these types of things that's like, okay, I could sit down, take a break, get some water in me, eat something real quick, and then continue. He doesn't have a flashlight. It's dark out. There's so much going on. And even going up a rock scramble during the middle of the day when it's, like, bright, sunny, and somewhat easy to do because you kind of have an idea of where you're grabbing at.
Easier,
somewhat
like,
easy.
Oh, God. Well, the thing about that, too, is even if he went with someone... and that person was able to make it back down. If he was injured or something, it could take forever to go back and find him. And so much could have happened, honestly, because there's no, like, dragging someone back down with you. Like, I've gone on, like, easy hikes with friends, and I remember one of my friends, she started having an anxiety attack in the middle of the hike because, like, this huge, like, snow cloud just started rolling in. It came in so fast. And we were about 2 miles in, and I just lied to her. I was like, hey, we're like half a mile out. let's just start walking back. Like, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And she was like, I need to sit down. I can't keep going. I was like, you don't really have a choice. I was like, you got yourself in. You can get yourself out. I'm not doing the thing where I have to go back to town, get a ranger, and then, like, they, like, come get you. We're not doing that. We're too close to my car. Mm-hmm. Oh, my God.
Well, it's like... I mean, I've been out in the middle of the desert, and there are times where it's like, I recall people I've been with just downing water and trying to stay hydrated. And the thing that people don't know is that you could do, I think it's called hyperpoxia, where you actually drink too much water and you end up over flooding your system. And I've watched people go down because of that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, what is it? What, 12,000 feet, right?
Yeah.
Is that what he was at? Yeah. Back in the 80s, it was snowing all the time at that elevation back then.
Oh, yeah. And
you could probably look at it, too. Yeah.
This is Colorado. Like, we have probably the most bipolar weather that you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, what is it? When me and my friend went up Quandary, shout out to him, by the way. He like dragged me up there for like the last half. I did not want to keep going, but we ended up like halfway up. It just started snowing, and it was at the end of August when we went, and it was just like well, good thing we brought our coats.
Yeah.
It's bizarre once you get high enough up in elevation, and then the weather would stop. It would stop, snow for 10 minutes, and then everything disappears and you're clear. Then the clouds come back, and the winds are just so strong at that elevation too. It's just weird.
Yeah.
So weird.
And be it as this is a like tourist area, like people do go hiking up in these mountains all the time. However, it's not as heavily trafficked as, like, for instance, the Estes Park region of the Rocky Mountains, where people are constantly in and out of that national park system all the fucking time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, people love Estes.
Yeah, well,
they
Estes
love
is
the Rockies.
gorgeous. Estes is gorgeous. I will say that. No, the misadventure part is probably the reality of what happened. It was probably something like he was in the dark, he didn't see his footing, he slipped, he fell, something got broken, and unfortunately succumbed to the elements. Or it was a slip, fall, and an immediate death, which I unfortunately morbidly hope that it was that.
Right? I can't imagine just like this poor man with a broken leg sitting there probably screaming for hours, like just not doing well.
Like, unfortunately, I morbidly hope that if that was the case, it was a quick and painless death.
Yeah, I mean, you probably don't care too much after you die, so I guess there's that. Well, then there is like something that's supposed to kick in too when that's going on to make your passing easier. Mm-hmm. Like eventually you just stop feeling the pain, I think.
Yeah.
I think you're supposed to do that.
Everything kind of goes numb, and it's just, you're done.
It's just like going to sleep.
Yeah.
But it's really too bad. I really, hearing stories from like missing hikers and stuff really just does not feel good at all. Like, I've been going to Boulder for work a lot recently, and last week we did have a missing hiker down there, which was a little freaky, and I haven't heard anything, and I haven't looked into it past, he's been missing for 3 days, and it's like, well, that is terrifying, and I hope they find him.
Well, I mean, that happens all the time out here, especially during the summer months, because people come out and they're like, we're going to go see what Arizona's like, and they don't count that it's 120 degrees out there, and in some of those regions, that heat just pockets and pools and will dehydrate you and bring you down in an instant. There comes another fact, too, of when you're exposed to elements like that, you don't think clearly. You start having like weird, irrational thoughts, and it gets so hard to just focus on what's going on. Because, like, for example, and we'll talk about this when we return to the bodies of Everest eventually, but a lot of those people,
bring me in on that one.
I'll bring you in on that one. When those people start getting to the peak of the summit, they start going through visions of grandeur, and sometimes they'll take off their masks and go running to the top, and that's probably the dumbest thing that you can do. Or there's
made it.
Yeah. Or there's some people that just decide that it's so cold, and this is a really real thing with hypothermia, that people will just start shedding clothing and getting undressed.
I've done that. Actually, I was on a hike, and it was like freezing out, and I remember just being there with one of my friends. We were both like, we've gone out all the time, or we go out all the time. We're not new hikers, like, and just layers started falling off me. I couldn't tell you why, but my body was hot. Mm-hmm. Like, I felt like I was gonna die if I didn't put clothes on. And then, like, I was like getting down to like my bra, and my friend's like, "Are you good?" I was like, "Let me check." I felt my arm, and it was like so cold I could barely move it. Like, I could barely just flex my forearm, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna put all this back on." And so, and so I put all my clothes back on, and then after about 20 minutes, I was fine. Mm-hmm. But that was kind of weird, because I just, I don't know, if you think, oh, I'm just super hot, I don't know what's going on, I just feel like I'm gonna pass out, I'm so hot, but the opposite is happening, and your body's like, overdrive, heat her, she's gonna die.
Well, even speaking
you don't know, because you're just,
the experience of being somebody that's suffered with heat exhaustion and heat stroke, like, that's something that you start feeling that come on, and it's like you get the subtle little things coming on first, that it's like you're kind of achy, you feel hot, you're really sweaty, and then all of a sudden it's bam, you have a migraine. You don't want to look around. And the best thing that you can do is just like sit down and close your eyes in that position. And you need to get water into your system. Otherwise, you are going to be seriously hurting. And I've been to the hospital for it before. It is not fun.
Oh, no. That's pretty bad. That would be also very scary to deal with.
Oh, yeah. Like, I've had it during hikes, and I can usually tell when it's coming on now because of experience, unfortunately. But if somebody wasn't really experienced with dealing with that, then they're just going to be like, okay, well, I have a slight headache. I'm fine. But once everything hits, it sucks. Because you go into that migraine stage, and it's one of those migraines that it's just crippling, and you just want to lay down.
Yeah.
Same thing goes for the cold. You just get too tired to go.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like heat stroke in that situation is almost worse. I'd rather be too cold than too hot. Unless I start losing toes.
Yeah. When frostbite starts coming into the picture, I don't want that.
None of that. What is it? I've talked to people about this before. I remember I went paddleboarding with one of my friends, and it was like in March. And I told her, I was like, if we fall in the water, we have 15 minutes to get the other person back to shore. Whoever is like, can function the best, or both of us probably. Mm-hmm. And she was like, seriously? I was like, yeah. And then we'll just like, I had a Mr. Heater in my car. I was like, we'll just like fire up the Mr. Heater and just like blankets. But I like gave her that warning, and she was still like, yeah, let's go out into the water where it's like 30 degrees. I think the water is 38 degrees. Oh, God. But yeah, no, like, I watched a friend get hypothermia, too, in a lake, and it's like, none of that is pleasant. And if you're not, like, really exposed to that stuff, you can succumb to any natural thing so easily. Like, I used to do a lot more hiking and camping than I do now, but, like, winter camping, the first night is the worst night of your life. The second night, you sleep through the whole thing because you're so tired from the first night. But then your body's acclimated to like a different level of cold. Like there's like this survival instinct that kind of, I don't know, it's like genetic, where your body like kicks into overdrive when it starts feeling cold, and you go into like a different survival mode to push through. But
it's the same way out here. It's like you start getting hot and your body has to take into extra precautions, be that sweating more or driving your thirst needs up with like cotton mouth. Like there's ways that it gets around so you actually take care of yourself, because it's like, hey, you too stupid to do this without me, so here we go.
Yeah, when your body just starts doing what bodies do, which is survive.
Yep. Anyway, so we'll go ahead and give you Keith R. Reinhard's description as according to his NamUs profile. Keith is a white Caucasian male. His date of birth is September 10th of 1938. The date of disappearance or last contact is August 7th, 1988. The age of disappearance is 49 years old, and his current age today would be 85 years old. His weight was around 210 pounds. His height is 6 foot 2 inches tall. His hair color is gray or partially grayed. His eye color is blue. Keith was last seen wearing casual clothing of a flannel shirt, blue jeans, and tennis shoes. If you want more information regarding Keith Reinhard and his disappearance or description, check out the NamUs profile of number MP12067. If you or anyone you know has any information about Keith Reinhard or his disappearance, you are asked to contact the Clear Creek County Sheriff's Office at 303-679-2376. That number again is 303-679-2376. Thank you again for listening to Spattered. Please make sure to follow the show on Facebook and Instagram at Spattered Podcast and on X at Spattered Pod. If you're enjoying the show, make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts from. If you're watching on YouTube, like this video, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to be notified when the show goes live or drops a video. As always, if you have a case request, any questions, or are interested in sponsoring the show, please email me at spatteredpodcast@gmail.com. Spattered is a true crime podcast hosted by Caitlin Gardner and Sarah Ray. The research and edits for this episode were done by Caitlin Gardner. All the music for the show was done by Lucio Cardenas. We'll see you next time. Stay safe out there. And remember, the truth is always in the blood.